Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel. This is Business Connections Live with Steve Hyland.
Hello there and welcome on to Business Connections Live, the program for entrepreneurs, SMEs and business owners. Today's show is going to be a real cracker. We're going to be discussing how to handle stress and anxiety in the workplace, in your private life, in fact, everywhere. And I think what we've done in this particular year, at the beginning of the year, a lot of people, I think, are going back to work or they've been back to work and they find themselves in real stressful situations. And what we've tried to do over the last couple of programs is look at different ways that you can actually combat that stress, how you can maybe position yourself in your own mind's eye as being more positive, more direct, and more secure in your own thoughts. Joining me in the studio today is Cath Lloyd. She is a life coach and she's going to be giving us some ideas, some techniques, some of the things that we should be considering when it comes to making absolutely certain that we're in the best place when it comes to stress and anxiety. Now, we'd better make it clear at the very beginning, haven't we, that what you don't do is you don't go into businesses, companies or meet people to make them anxious and stressy. You do the opposite to that, don't you?
Absolutely, that's a very good point.
Yeah. So just Cath, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I help people get their emotional balance so that they can reduce the anxiety and stress levels, because then once you've got your emotional balance back, if you've lost it, then you are in a great position to be able to think further ahead of how you're going to, one, manage your, your triggers more effectively, but the whole of your life, because anxiety and stress comes from lots of different places. It's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's going to feel and think differently about their anxieties and stresses. And so it's about me really working with the individual to really help them find what the trigger is, whether that trigger can be removed, because sometimes the trigger can't be removed, or how to handle it more effectively.
When you talk about triggers, what do you mean by that? Is it circumstances that we find ourselves in? Is it an emotional response to a particular individual or a person or a situation? What do you mean by trigger?
It can be any of those things. So, for example, somebody might need to lose weight because their health is on the line if they don't lose the weight. Okay, so that would be... that's going to be a long-term solution, long-term strategy to help not only lose the weight but keep the weight off. And then what else is there that they can do to help improve their health? It might be that there's a bereavement. Okay, so you can't remove that trigger, but you can help manage the thoughts and the feelings that are revolved around that bereavement, for example, so that you can live life, you can get on with life, you can, be effective at work, be effective at home, go out and have normal social time with your friends and get all of those things back. Life is going to be different, but you will gradually go back to living a normal life, but that normal might be slightly different to what it was before.
A lot of people experience stress and anxiety in the workplace,
yes,
and they find that really, really very difficult, and that impacts their entire life. So yes, something may be happening. They may be working for a psychopathic boss. We'll go down that route because that's what seems to happen. But they may be working for a boss, or they may have been promoted to their own level of incompetence, which is a dreadful expression to say, but that does happen a lot of times. You were good at this job, therefore we're going to promote you. You're good at that job, we're going to promote you again. And eventually you hit a level where that is all your mental capacity is taken up, and you're now in an environment of stress and anxiety about your job.
Yes.
Can this also work for that, or do you have to remove yourself, extract yourself from what is causing the anxiety and stress? And maybe if you're feeling that in work, you shouldn't be in that particular position.
Well, like you say, sometimes, you know, it's exactly like you say, that we get promoted or pushed into an area that we're not comfortable in. And yes, sometimes you do have to look deeply within yourself to see why you were doing it. All right, is this promotion really, really right for you? Is it, you know, is it just about the money, or is it about your own personal development and progression? And, you know, often when you've got the psychopathic boss, you know...
better point out that not all bosses are, of course, psychopathic. Only most of them. But yes.
But often, you know, when we aren't working well with a boss or colleagues, it's often our values aren't matching up. And so we feel unbalanced in that way. And is it, you know, some people can adjust how they think and feel about work so they can slot in with those values just at work and then go back, you know, leave work and carry on with their, you know, their core values, you know, when they're out of work. But yes, some people might have to make a firm decision to go, okay, this is too much for me, and I might have to leave. But there's nothing to say that you can't have support in helping you improve your strategies. Perhaps, you know, you need to have more training. Perhaps you do need a mentor, and this is where people have to have good communication skills with their, you know, with their line managers, so that they can have the right support that they need. And this is however up or down the ladder you are.
When you talk to people, both individuals, both out of work, and people who are working within quite a stressful environment, because it seems that the workplace has changed quite a lot.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you see the most common thing, and is there a quick fix for it? So what's the most common symptoms and problems that you see out there when you're talking to people? Please don't say everybody's different, because I'm sure there must be quite a big similarity across the board.
Well, when you talk about anxiety and stress, you're looking at things like lifestyle choices. You know, you might, you know, start changing your lifestyle choices. You know, you're likely to have sleep issues, whether that's sleeping too much or not sleeping at all. You know, it's about your own temperament and your own behaviour, the way you communicate with people. You might be more short-tempered with people, especially the people that you love.
Sound like you're describing me at the moment.
I haven't tapped into you, honest.
He's whispering in my ear at the moment. He's just been horrible. I don't like him very much anyway.
You know, but there are other signals as well that, you know, you're not managing. Like, your body is going to react differently. You might be getting aches and pains that you don't normally have. You might hate getting up in the morning. What happens to a lot of people is that, you know, you have your 2 days off at the weekend, if you're lucky enough to have 2 days off these days. But when you are halfway through that second day, you're going to start worrying about going to work the next day. So you're allowing your thoughts and your feelings about the next day infect the day that you aren't at work. And you're already building up a whole process of thoughts and feelings around what life is going to be like when I get up in the morning and I've got to go to work and I've got to suffer this psychopathic boss and I'm in a position that I can't cope with, and how am I going to fulfill all these obligations? Are people going to catch on that I can't do this job? You know, and so there's a whole succession of different things going on that as an individual you might be burying because you're too frightened to really confront it and challenge it and do something about it.
Well, dare I ask then, is there any way then, I know there's not going to be a quick fix, but are there any techniques, if you are that kind of person, before we get into the real, the crux of it, but are there any techniques that you could use that may reduce some of that anxiety, that stress that you get on a Sunday afternoon? Here we are, we're on a Monday.
Yes.
So, you know, people have been through that. Just yesterday
Yes.
they were through that. So what kind of techniques would you suggest?
So I am a big believer in getting outside and getting some fresh air. All right, being in nature, because nature has a very calming, influence on us.
Interestingly, there was an article saying exactly that yesterday in one of the newspapers.
And also, what was on the telly earlier last week was about singing and movement and dancing. And I know that when you're anxious and stressed, that they're the last things on your mind. But sometimes we have to force ourselves to do these things to preserve our self-care. So, and another really good way of doing it is go out and look at something that's tiny. A little flower, or, you know, if you're not into flowers, perhaps you're into motor mechanics, go and look at how an engine works and how complicated it is, and all the tiny little elements that are involved in these things. Because one, it's about distracting your train of thought, but also it's about bringing normality into your thought process as well. Breathing is really, really important.
Yep.
When we're anxious and stressed, we're only going to breathe
100%
from here.
Breathing is really important. Breathe in, breathe out, repeat.
But it's about the quality of breath. Because our breathing has a direct influence on the rest of our body. So if we're not breathing properly, we're not taking in the right amount of oxygen to oxygenate our blood, to get to all of our organs. And, you know, we all know, because there's been a lot of press about it, that long-term anxiety and stress will lead to physical disease and health issues, because it's going to affect your immune system, it's going to affect, you know, your heart, all of your organs. And so, you know, whether it's going for a walk, or instead of getting in the car and going and buying your Sunday paper, take a walk or get the bike out and just trying to do some kind of physical activity. So, yeah, that's another one.
Well, listen, hold that thought. We'll come back with a few
So
more
much
in just
to
a moment,
say.
because that's really good. She must be getting on to buy the bottle of wine in just a moment. She's got to be talking about that one. Listen, more from Cath Lloyd in just a few moments' time. She's a life coach. She's joining us on the program today. Has she summed up your life? Is this the way you feel on a Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon? Are you now becoming completely distracted? Is that fear of going into work, is that the thing that's going through your mind on a Sunday afternoon? You go to bed at night on a Sunday night and you're lying there. And it's interesting about distracting your mind. Somebody said to me, it's not when we go to bed that we can't switch off from life. It's the fact that what we can't do is we can't switch on to sleeping. And it's that keeps us awake at night. And isn't it interesting? You can be downstairs, maybe, or even upstairs. I don't know how your house is, but maybe downstairs. And you're watching the television. And while you're watching the television, you can drift off. You can go to sleep while you're watching the telly. But when you go to bed, you lie awake. What's that all about? Is the telly distracting your conscious mind? Listen, more from Cath in just a few moments' time here on this edition of Business Connections Live. Hope you're finding it really interesting. Let's go back a week now. On last week's show, we talked to Sheena Cantor. She's a speaker, author and coach about how to create wealth and inner happiness in 6 months. As I said, we've got this whole theme at the moment where we're trying to get you in a better mental place, a more resilient mental place to bring you through the year of 2020. It's going to be a tough year. It's going to be an exciting year. I think there's going to be a lot of changes, and I think there's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made. But I think what we've got to do is approach 2020 in the most positive attitude that we possibly can. I was listening to my colleague Linda Bazant. She was on the radio the other day, and while the interview was on that she was actually on with the other people that she's been interviewed with, they were quite dour about the circumstances we found ourselves in. It was on Friday. It was the day that we were leaving the EU. And it was interesting to listen to the way that they were responding to questions, and the whole programme had this kind of feeling about it. And then Linda came on and said, what we've got to do is stop, grasp the nestle. We've just got to get on with it. We've just got to go for it. We've just got to do it, because it's very easy to go, ooh. Now, Sheena was that kind of person last week, running at 100 miles per hour, full of energy, and really was giving some good advice with the key takeaways from last week's programme. Here's Sheena Cantor. You're watching Business Connections Live. My guest on today's show is Sheena Cantor. She's a speaker, author and coach.
But actually what we do is guided by our subconscious, and that is literally being programmed from, well, I don't know, you're probably your great-great-great-great-grandfather. In corporate life, whenever I was there, literally learning processes, and so then I would come in front of a customer and I would go through a process to try and get him to go through a process to try and sell something, and it always felt like I was never connected. But I just find it was just so many processes I was trying to remember up here, and when I see people apply those, I see a disconnect. You know, I feel a disconnect, but when I go in and I just talk to you and understand what your needs are, then you know that I'm coming from what you need, not for me to get something from you. Well, what you have is that they've had a problem where they've had people not getting on, and so they're not gelling. And so whenever you start to actually, when people understand people, and realise that we're all trying to get to the same end goal, but everybody's like trying to get there a different way, and they're maybe fighting each other. You know, whenever you have that, it's because everybody's full of confidence and full of ego. I mean, ego is the one thing. This is where, when you've got too much confidence, you don't want to hear this stuff. When you've got too little confidence, you don't think that you're worthy to actually do this stuff. It's about finding that right balance. You know, you know the ego people, you know, when they're puffed out chests, you know, and walk into a room and shake your hand and it's nearly going to fall off. And that's that there's too much confidence. We're pretending to be something we're not. And there's a self-image behind there, and everybody recognises that conversation, that there's a self-image that you give to the world, and there's a self-image that you have at home at night time when you go to sleep, and you worry about, I can't do this, I'm not good at this, oh my goodness, I've said I'm going to do that and I'm not going to have it. And that's the conversations you see I have with people on a one-to-one basis. So there is a process, there is actually a process to results, which is what the Bob Proctor programme actually gives you, but it's not a strategy for do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's a process to get to know yourself. And it's literally 12 weeks, 12 lessons, and it is proven. It is so highly focused and directed. You imagine the amount of personal material out there, personal development material. It's huge, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, literally, he narrows it down to 12 steps. So, you know, whenever you think it's just like, oh, well, it's 95% mindset and 5% strategy, that is illogical. Well, you know, we work within our boxes, literally work within our boxes. So if you're not getting results, you've got to get outside the box. You've got to do something illogical. It's got to scare you. And it's got to be like, if people aren't laughing at you, you're still doing the same thing, and the people are laughing at you. They're not the ones who failing at all. You know, the only way to get success is to fail forward, and so to do something completely stupid, out of mind, fail. That's how you get to success. A rocket fails its way to the moon. Hiya, how you doing? It's Sheena Cantor, and I work with Bob Proctor as one of his consultants. Now, the difference in this program is it actually becomes a way of life. It's not just something that you learn once and then you put it away. We've all done that. It's on a piece of paper and we never read the piece of paper again, or we do a course and we've got the piece of paper to show to everybody, but we actually don't apply it. This is a way of life, and when you get this program, you get it for life. You get me for 6 months to a year, but actually the program is for life. So basically it's going to, if you want results, and there's results that you're looking for in life and you haven't been able to get them and you've tried every other way, come and try this way, come and try Bob's way. It literally, the results that we get, and what happens is it's not me that's teaching you, it's actually Bob. You have Bob literally streamed into your living room twice a day, every day. You get a workbook, you get exercises, and it's work that you do every day. So you've got to have the want, you've got to have the desire. If you don't have that, don't bother, because it's not going to work. You've got to literally do the work, and you've got to really want it. And I work with you for the first 2 weeks to help pull that out, because people do come to me and they go, but I don't know what I want. Boy, I think you know, I'm actually going to get that out of you. So listen, if you want something in your life and you haven't got it, and I'm talking about even if it's just peace, because peace comes before prosperity. And you know, if you want the money, that's fine, the money will come. But when you find the peace, first of all, you'll realize that you've got all the prosperity in the world that you need. So you work with me for 6 months to a year, the program's for life, and I keep you on the straight and narrow, and I stop you from falling off the path, and I basically hold your hand and help you get those results. So yes, contact Sheena Cantor on LinkedIn, and I think that's all I need to say.
Sheena Cantor there on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. Now, if you're watching the program, you think to yourself, I would love to be an expert guest. I'd like to raise my profile. I'd like to tell people what I do. I'd like to tell people what my brand, my product, the lessons that I've learned in my business life are all about. Then you can come on the program. And there are ways of finding out how to do that. The best way of doing that is by dropping us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com. Drop us an email. Better still, though, why don't you pick the phone up? It's the one app on most people's phones in business that we just don't use enough. The phone app. So pick the phone up, give us a call. 01784 256 777 is our telephone number. Don't forget, you can follow our stream of consciousness. You can always DM us as well. I'm down with the kids on Twitter. If you follow us, it's BCL Business TV. You can watch the program live each week and also leave comments afterwards as well. If you go to our Facebook page, you can also, where else can we do it? We can do it on YouTube. You can also watch the program and leave comments right now on LinkedIn. We're one of the lucky ones, and we're doing this as a live broadcast on LinkedIn. If you're on LinkedIn right now, if you're watching the program, we hope you found the first part of the show with my guests today informative and interesting. But do you have a question for Cath Lloyd? If you do, go to LinkedIn and just leave it on there next to the program. Watch the show, leave your message, and we'll give you an answer while the program is on live. If you're watching on catch up, maybe on the website, then that's great too. But do leave a comment. Always tell us what you thought of the show and the other shows you'd like to see. But if you'd like to be a guest on the program to make yourself a little bit famous, then do get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live. So then, today we're discussing how to handle stress and anxiety. Cath Lloyd is my guest. She is a life coach. She steps back for a moment. She allows you to step back out of your life for a moment or two and to discuss the reasons why you're feeling that stress. Discuss the reasons why you're feeling anxious in life. Discuss the reasons why perhaps you're not sleeping when you go to bed at night. And in fact, that's where we left this.
Yes.
People find it, and we hear the expression, switch off to go to bed. And actually what is happening is the mind isn't switching on to go to sleep. So what techniques and what ideas or suggestions do you have for those people? Because that just makes the condition even worse. If you're feeling stressful and you're feeling anxious and you're not getting your sleep, it only makes matters worse.
Yes, it does, unfortunately, and it's just like, you know, you said earlier that you're watching the telly, you're engrossed in the program, you're nice and relaxed on the sofa, and you get more and more, and you drift off to sleep. You wake up, you go upstairs, and you think, oh my God, I've got to go to work tomorrow. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't like the boss, and all of these nasty, dirty thoughts and feelings start, you know, chattering away in your head. So it's about making the environment right for you. Okay, you know, a lot of people will take their phones. I can't sleep, I'll just check my Facebook, I'll just check my emails, you know, that sort of thing. And it's about making the environment right for you. So, you know, quietness, perhaps, you know, to help soothe you and soothe your mind. Perhaps some very relaxing music will help. It obviously depends on who's in the bed next to you and what's, you know, conditions they need.
Does loud snoring help at all?
No, it doesn't. Okay. But you can use things like essential oils to help, you know, relax the mind. You can get great diffusers now. You can put them on you know, a timer so that it can come on before you go to bed, make a nice, you know, scent around your room, and then it'll just switch off. It's very, very safe. It'll just switch off when the water's all gone, or you can pop it on your pillow, you know, that sort of thing. But breathing, we're going back to breathing again, is very, very important.
Stop doing that.
No, don't do that. And you know, different people are going to have different methods. For me, I put my hand on my chest, my hand on my belly, and I just feel the movement of my body as I'm breathing, and that helps get into the right rhythm. It's about getting the right temperature in the room as well. So there's lots and lots of different things that can help you. But of course, everybody's individual. But it is about trying to empty the mind.
But you see, it's very easy to say, because
Yes.
people say that, don't they? Empty your mind and you'll drift away. And in many respects, it seems that many of the techniques that people talk about when it comes to relaxing the mind are distracting the mind.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I was told that if you can't get off to sleep, then there's the old one about Noah's Ark. So what you do, you work your way through the alphabet, and for A, you've got a couple of apes going up into the ark, and then B, you've got a couple of bears, and C, you've got a couple of cows, and by the time you get to G, you're long gone, you're fast asleep, because you've distracted your thought processes.
Yes.
And it just seems to me that if you're lying in bed at night and you're worrying about work, you tend to play over the same things
Yes.
countless times, and something that may only in life take a couple of minutes to do and resolve, in your mind's eye will take hours in the middle of the night. And it's always worse when it's dark.
It always is, because there are the distractions, you know, and you know, when you get these thoughts and these feelings, it's really important to acknowledge them. To say, okay, yes, I've got this thought about I hate work, I don't want to go into work tomorrow, and then literally talk to yourself about parking that information, moving it out of your head and somewhere else. All right, some people might write it down. Journaling is a really good way of taking what's in your head onto paper, and so it frees your mind up for other things. Okay, and what I do with working with my clients is, how do you want tomorrow to be? You know, we're focusing so much on, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want the other, but what do you want instead? How do you want to be feeling about work? Because if you start focusing on what you want instead, when you do go off to sleep, your brain will be processing that information, and you're more likely to wake up with that thought process.
Are we wishing bad things then, do you think? Is that what we're doing when we're lying there? If I don't want to go to work tomorrow, I don't want to find myself in that situation again, and we're nearly positioning ourselves for bad things to happen.
You're breeding it.
Yes.
You know, it's like putting a load of viruses in a perfect temperature oven and letting them breed. It's the same with our thought processes, and what we want to do is to change that focus. Okay, I don't want this, what do I want instead?
So journaling seems to be a good idea then. So if it's in your head, then write it down. Are there any other suggestions that you would give for those people that do find themselves completely stressed, very anxious the previous night before going into work? What else, any other techniques that you would tell them to do?
Also, it's about, you know, perhaps, you know, when you wake up in the morning, give yourself a little bit of extra time. A lot of people now are getting up in the morning, dash, or put the you know, your alarm on snooze, which then means that you're going to be drifting off back to sleep, and you're going to be in that, you know, sedative state when the alarm goes off again in 20 minutes and it jerks you back into motion. You're not going to follow through the whole sleep pattern, which isn't going to have a great effect on you anyway. So if you have your alarm set for 7 o'clock, get up at that time, all right? And don't rush and look at your phone. Get up, have a drink, have some breakfast, which a lot of people skip now, you know, but you need to fuel your body, all right, so that it can work at its best. Okay, you've got masses of cells in your body that all need to be looked after, and you're the only one who can do it. Nobody else can do it for you, so you've got to look after your body. And, you know, some people will put the news on. Well, the news is full of doom and gloom. Make your morning nicer for you. What are you listening to in the morning? You know, what radio station are you listening to? What CDs have you got in place? You know, because all of that is going to have a huge influence on your thoughts and your feelings for the rest of the day. And so it isn't one thing, it's a whole succession of little things.
But this is a huge change for many people. We live in this connected world. I mean, I think the worst thing in the whole world is all the social media platforms that are there to distract us. We're permanently switched on. Some people are very good at being able to step back and go, I'm putting my smartphone or my computer over there. It's the weekend, I won't touch it. Some people are very good at that, and some people are nearly addicted to it. It's nearly like an addiction.
Yes.
So it makes it very difficult, and of course that seems to make the problems even worse.
And we get into a habit of it, and it's about changing that habit. And it doesn't come naturally, changing habit, because it feels odd. You know, it's like signing your name with the... You know, you might be right-handed, but signing your name with your left hand instead, it's totally alien, isn't it? And when we try and change our habits about what time you're going to get up in the morning, what you're going to have for your breakfast, making sure you don't reach for your phone as soon as you get up in the morning, it's all going to seem very, very strange. But it's about making yourself do it, and this boils down to why do you want to be thinking and feeling and behaving differently, and setting out a set of things that you can follow. But gradually, the more you do it, the easier it will become, and then it will gradually become a new habit.
Is it something that can be learned from coaching, do you think? Can you be coached to learn those skills, or do you have to really intrinsically inside of yourself, you know, believe in that just talking to somebody is going to help? And why does coaching work? Actually, that's another question, isn't it? We'll talk more with Cath Lloyd in just a few moments' time. She's a life coach. We'll find out why coaching potentially could actually work for you. That's still to come on this edition of Business Connections Live. We are live on LinkedIn. If you do have a question, you can go onto our LinkedIn account. You can see the programme there. You can leave a question on there. If you're on Facebook at the moment, maybe you're watching this, so you're heading into the office, maybe you're on a train or you're on catch-up at the moment. But, you know, do leave a comment if you found yourself in this situation where you're dreading going into work, or you know, maybe we've kind of sat in this world of, you know, the Sunday into Monday, and, you know, you're back to work again. But it could be anything in your life that could be causing you that kind of anxiety. Something that is personal in your life at the moment may be causing you that kind of anxiety, and you're going round and round and round in a loop, and you're trying to step back and you're trying to get out of it. Maybe some of the techniques that Cath is giving us on today's edition of the programme are going to be a bit of a help for you. More from Cath, as I said, in just a few moments' time. Cath Lloyd, she is a life coach, and she's on this edition of Business Connections Live. Great to have your company as always. Thank you very much for joining us. It's our privilege that you're there, so thank you very much indeed. Let's go back a couple of programs now, because as I said, quite a few of the programs have been about mindfulness, well-being, thoughtfulness, but let's look at some of the tools that businesses have. LinkedIn, of course, is a big business, and one of our favourites on the programme, we nearly get a mention every week, is Angus Grady. He was on the programme a little while back, and the programme was How to Unlock Your LinkedIn to Improve Your Business. That was Business Connections Live 259. I do want to get Angus back on, because there's been a few changes on the platform, and LinkedIn for me is the most important of all the social media groups. A lot of people are getting a lot of response though from Instagram when it comes to growing their business as well. But for me, LinkedIn seems to be possibly the right way that we should all be going. I like LinkedIn. Of course, we're LinkedIn Live, so we're using it like that. But how do you get more from LinkedIn to grow your business? As I said, Angus Grady, he is the LinkedIn Unlocker, and he talks on the entire programme about what you should be doing, how to raise your profile. The big question from Angus is, do you do the dance with people who connect with you? That's the question. Do they connect, and then do you go back and comment on their individual posts till they like you, they love you, they trust you? Do you do that? Or do you skip the dance and go straight for the sale? Because after all, it is a business platform. Maybe that confusion between being a professional platform and a social media platform, there is some confusion there. How should you be using it? Well, Angus Grady will give you the right advice. Here he is on Business Connections Live.
My name's Angus Grady. I'm the LinkedIn Unlocker, and I'm everywhere. I'm on the internet, and I help you to basically unlock the potential of your profile. So to turn visitors from from curiosity to connections to convert. The key takeaway, I think, is that it's about optimizing your profile. Get your social selling index right. Think about what your keywords are. So get your skills to be congruent with what your keywords are, and drop those skills and those keywords into your headline, your profile, and everywhere else. Tell people what problem you solve and how you can help them, rather than talk about your benefits. And as I've said a couple of times, this is about amplifying your value, not broadcasting your benefits. And look at your metrics, and whoever's looked at your profile, look at those figures, because you want to be on all of these. They're all leads. You want to be on it like a Dalek on a dustbin. You really do. And you want to make sure that you're using this as a marketing platform, as a listening platform. You can search on keywords and get content. There's a whole raft of areas. And if you'd like any more information, please do connect with me. My phone number's on there, but connect with me if we're not already connected. And anything I can do to help, please do send me a message on LinkedIn. And this show is brilliant, and I advise anybody thinking about their marketing to think about using this kind of platform as something that will project you to a bigger, better audience.
Ah, bless him, Angus Grady there on the programme a little while back. A really good show. If you want to check out, Angus has done a few programmes with us. Just go to our website at businessconnectionslive.com and you'll be able to see there's something like now 286 programmes or thereabouts. And, there's something like 400 hours of free business advice and coaching there online with our expert guests. So if you want to find out more, just go to the website at businessconnectionslive.com, and don't miss the opportunity as well to come on the program. Also, if you feel that this would be really difficult for you, if you have a bit of a fear of talking to the camera or to the microphone, then we do media training here as well. If you want more details about that, once again, go to the website at businessconnectionslive.com. Great to have your company as always. My guest on today's show is Cath Lloyd. She's a life coach, and we're discussing how to handle stress and anxiety. And just give you a little bit more information on Cath. This is the book that she referred to. She alluded to this book earlier on today. The book is called When Dad Became Joan, Life with My Transgender Father. It's an interesting read, actually, and what's also good about it is it also is a bit like a workbook as well. It takes you through processes, you see help section, your self-help section rather, and there are a number of different questions to ask yourself. So it's a really, really interesting read. But what's nice about it, like the way that Cath works, it is interactive. You read the book and then you can respond. You can do some work to it. The book is called When Dad Became Joan, Life with My Transgender Father. That must have been a very difficult time for you, personally, before we get back to the programme. Was the book something a little bit like therapy to a certain extent, writing it down?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Hugely. But also it was really emotional to write. I tend to write at the weekends. I tend to work on a chapter at a time, but then reflect on it over the week, because I'd spent 24 years suppressing my the dirt and darky thoughts and thoughts and feelings. I had been suppressing them, so I had to allow all of that to come to the surface to be able to really describe what I was thinking, what I was feeling, why I was feeling those things, why was it difficult for me to accept my dad's change, why was it so difficult to tell my children or people that had come into my life.
So did you go to a coach yourself?
No. So
is that the mistake that people make, that they try to resolve it themselves by not going to a coach?
Well, I mean, this was I was told back in 1987, you didn't send your kids to counselling, and so the only people I could talk to was my dad, who was struggling through the change, and my mum, who was struggling with it anyway. So, there was nowhere for me to go and explore all these thoughts and these feelings, and I was trying to subdue it all and let's get on with life, it's all fine, people have worse things to deal with than me. But actually what was going on that I was struggling with was a bereavement process, because I was losing my dad for Joan, but my dad was still here, but to me was a different person. But what I failed to realise is that the outside appearance was different, but actually that person was still the same inside. And that's what I had failed, because I couldn't acknowledge the change and I was staying in victim mode.
So what was the changing point then for you? What was the thing that clicked you out of it, so that you realised, here I am, I'm in victim mode? What put you on the other side of the fence? How did you change it?
It was a natural process, like most.
So does time heal everything then? Even if you're feeling anxious and stressful, if you leave it long enough, it will go away.
It's about acknowledging it and accepting it. For me, with this particular instance, was that I was doing the grown-up daughter stuff and emptying the cupboards and, sifting through the 40 years of mortgage statements and petrol invoices and all that stuff. And I was burning some stuff, and my dad's signature was in the fire. And it was like, oh my God, I've got to save that. And I felt I'm cremating my dad. And once I had, that shook me into reality almost. And suddenly that weight that I'd been carrying for 24 years or however long it was just lifted from me, and I was sobbing, the tears were running down my eyes, and I just thought, why is it taking me so long? And it was because I couldn't accept it. I wouldn't accept it.
So is that the role then of the coach, to accelerate that process, to get somebody from the beginning of the way they feel to where you are today and at that moment? Is that the role of the coach then, to accelerate it?
But the role of the individual is that they want to change, they want to make something different. Yes, we can go through the whole process as client coach, but if you still want to be in victim mode, for example, you're wasting your money. You've got to want to make that change. The coach can help you start to focus on what are the issues, what are the triggers, what are your belief systems, what do you want to be different, and help that process. But if you are going to dig your heels in, it's not going to change.
Well, there's a lot still to get through before the end of the programme. So let's talk a little bit about some of the processes then that you suggest to people that maybe they can self-medicate, if that is the right expression, or sit with a coach and discuss with. So what kind of things would you suggest? Okay,
so a lot of people that I work with who are very anxious and stressed, and if it's been going for a long period of time, the whole body is tense. Okay, so I worked with a lady who was agoraphobic for 7 years. Her hands were clenched up, she could hardly move around, as well as all the not sleeping and eating issues. She couldn't even go in the garden and hang the washing up, for example. So a lot of my work with her at the beginning was about relaxation, breathing, and it was a long process because she was relaxing, she was having to think about her thought processes, and she would just start crying because she didn't like what she was thinking about. It was abnormal for her to think about these things because she put herself into a new habit. So there's a lot of work around relaxing, giving yourself permission to relax, to give yourself permission to have a break from that thought process, to park the information, breathing again, but also about what are the good things going on in your life. Yes, this is horrendous, it's dire, it's the worst of the worst, it's a huge trauma, but what other things are going on, because we forget those things. We forget the person who held the door open for you, or who smiled and said hello and, you know, offered you their seat on the train. We forget all of that because we have got ourselves into a negative mindset. And so, you know, using a gratitude diary, I do this myself every night.
A gratitude diary. Do tell me more about this.
So I have my day-to-day diary and I have my gratitude diary. And before you go to bed at night, write down in your diary at least 3 things you are grateful for that's happened that day. And most people will start off, I'm grateful for being alive, I'm having my house, for having food on the table, my family, and all of those sorts of things. But what else are you grateful for that particular day? Well, I woke up this morning and I could hear the birds singing. A friend phoned me out of the blue who I haven't spoken to for 3 years. You know, those are the little things, and it's the little things that enrich our lives and make the bigger things even better. So that is a really, really important thing, coupled with how do you want tomorrow to be?
When you discuss this with your clients,
yes,
obviously we'll narrow it down just to the sexes, the male and the female.
Yes.
Do the males, dare I say this, the stereotypical males, do they roll their eyes and go, really?
Yes.
And the females, probably because they're maybe more empathetic or whatever, they'll take it on board. But do you see that as a problem between the sexes, or does everybody roll their eyes, or does everybody go, wow, that sounds like a great idea? What kind of reaction do you get?
Yeah, there does tend to be a little bit of a difference between, you know, how men feel about it and how women feel about it.
We're probably offended. Half the country now is offended.
Dear, I'm
the
not doing very
snowflakes will be
well
going,
here,
wow,
am I?
that statement I find offensive. But there you are.
Sorry. But this is about being, you know, realistic here. And yes, you know, we talk about you've got to be positive and take every day with a positive slant, but some days aren't like that for you. And this is where you need to be realistic. That generally in life, yes, I've got my house, the mortgage is paid, I've got my family, I've got my kids, you know, people are healthy and I can afford to put food on the table. But there's this, and it hurts me, and I don't like the feelings about it, and I don't want to go to work tomorrow because that person that I have to sit next to really bullies me and it really upsets me. But instead of, you know, I can't do it, is try and work out how you're going to manage it instead. And this is about our attitude. It's about being resilient. It's about learning, you know, learning from past experiences. What skills have you got? And this is what we do as working with a coach is, well, what skills have you already got that can be used here? When did you have a time when you had to, you know, work with somebody that you didn't get on with? And how did you manage that? What was the end result of that? And what could you do differently? So it's always about learning from difficult situations. And yes, it is hard. I know. Mm-hmm. I've had to do it myself and I see it in my clients. But once you've started to do it, it becomes easier.
The way you coach,
yes.
you've already told us that you're an NLP practitioner. Is it positioning things? Are these the techniques that you're using? Positioning, placement, that the structure of sentences, the positivity in a sentence, the whole world of neuro-linguistic programming, mixed up with a bit of hypnotherapy, nearly in what you're saying. Now, I know I don't know whether you're a qualified hypnotherapist.
No,
if you are, am I a chicken? But it seems to be that there's some of the techniques that are being used here. Well,
I pick lots of different techniques from lots of different areas, you know, because one size doesn't fit all. And people are going to have different skills already. And so it's tapping into those skills, like I was just talking about. You know, you've got that skill, you could use it here as well. what could make it even better. Because, you know, when we get anxious and very stressed, we forget what skills we've got because we're so caught up in what's going on in our heads, and we have to almost relearn it. It's like somebody pricking you with a pin. Oh God, yes, that's what I need to do. But you know, it's about making change and making it right for you that's going to give you the best life, and also include everybody else in it, because your anxiety and stress feeds out to everybody.
Hold that thought. We've still got to talk about recognising how to function instead of fight, flight or freeze.
Yes.
Briefly, we're going to have to do that and learn that whatever you're feeling, it will be okay.
Yeah.
Actually, that's going to be an easy one to do, isn't it? Because we've already said 97% of all the things you worry about never happen.
Yeah, but we've got to talk about reality, haven't we?
Yeah. More to come from my guest today, Cath Lloyd, on this edition of Business Connections Live. She is a life coach, and I hope you found today useful. If you want to find out more about Cath, you can go to her website, Cath Lloyd, and I was just having a quick gander around the site, to be honest with you. I'll show you the homepage. Here's the homepage now. Do I want to sign up? Probably I will do later. Get a clear aim for the new year. More info and a book online. Sleep problems, unhealthy lifestyle choices, poor concentration levels, how to make your tomorrows better. You can find out more. You can also lift your life. Top 10 tips keeping yourself sane, 7 steps to serenity, all of that. The page I went to, which is just up here, I'll just click on it and go to the coaching, because you do your lift your life. That we'll go for that one. There we go. This is very interesting as well. Lift your life. I love this here. Feel comfortable and fulfilled with who you are. Focus on living instead of feeling stuck in the past. Fulfill your desires, achieve greater happiness and peace, and find support, guidance and education, inspiration. 10 easy to follow structured modules, 10 sessions of private coaching, audio files, mini courses, regular communication, help and guidance. And I suppose it doesn't matter where you are in your life at the moment. All that kind of information is what we all need. And I suppose we carry around in our head our own little world. And sometimes we have to step out of that and allow other people to guide us through this little world that we have in our head, to give us that roadmap, so that we do realise that things that we worry about, things that we're anxious about, we can all do something about. Anyway, more from Cath in just a moment. Just going to remind you once again, if you want to be on the programme, it's dead easy to do that. You can drop us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com. Thank you very much indeed. Don't forget as well that this is a proper production environment here. So if you want to do some employee comms, we do a lot of employee comms where we go out, we interview people, we find out what they want to say about their brand, their product. We sit them down. We do it very much the style of broadcast television. I think there is a real difference. There are organisations, there are production companies who will do corporate video production, and what we kind of do is just a little bit different from that. We kind of do corporate television production, and we try to capture the essence of what people are trying to get over about their organisation or their business. I think there's a lot of people out there that can put together really, really great video that looks fantastic but says nothing. What we're trying to say is we're trying to say something that will have a reaction, proposition, resolution, call to action. That's what we're all about here. If that's the kind of thing that interests you and your organisation, or you just want something maybe to replace your newsletter, turn your readers into viewers, then get in touch with us here. You can drop us an email to studio@businessconnectionslive.com. You can give us a call. Thank you very much. There's the email. You can give us a call on 01784 256 777 if you want to have a word with us, or don't forget you can go to the website. There you go. That caught him a bit of a surprise. Well done. Very quickly caught up at businessconnectionslive.com. So today we're talking about how to handle stress and anxiety. My guest in studio today, she was just reaching down there to get some additional water, is Cath Lloyd. She is a life coach. Cath, it has been really, really interesting.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of people, I think what's been nice about it hasn't been out there too far. I mean, it's the kind of thing that I suppose when you're talking to somebody, they all go, yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
But still do nothing about it.
Yes.
So do you act as a measure then for these people?
Well, yes, because I can give, I can offer, but at the end of the day, they've got to say, please, will you help me? You know, it's anything, isn't it? It's about, you know, losing weight, getting fitter, running that marathon. You've actually got to start taking action to make a difference. But it's about making the right actions. You know, we can have a great big goal. I never want to be stressed again in my whole life. Well, is that really going to happen? You know,
Nope.
And that's a huge goal. Well, let's just take it a little step at a time and start off with perhaps the little things that are easy to address, because actually then once you address that smaller thing, it's going to have a ripple effect out to the other things. And that's how I like to work.
You write here about fight, flight or freeze and recognising it. Is some of the problem that we don't recognise that we are being stressed, that we are actually anxious, that we don't understand how to read our own emotions?
Yes, it is. And I mean, that is a really good point. And, you know, it's thinking about ourselves as a whole. It isn't just about what's going on in here or what's going on in here. It's about, you know, well, I've got a bit of a funny ache in my back. And, well, when did that start? You know, and what was happening in your life when that started? You know, and it's trying to connect things up so you can get a story. And then it's about, okay, if it's about the ache in your back, what are you already doing about it? You know, are you already having physio? Is that working for you? Are you going to the gym? Are you not, you know, are you doing fitness too many days a week? You know, are you not taking your rest days? But the thing is, a lot of people, when they get very anxious and stressed, they go into, you know, overdrive, because it's easier to go into overdrive. It's easier to do, you know, overtime at work, and yeah, I'll do that for you, and I'll do that for you, and I'll take the kids, and because it's easier to do than to think about what's going on in here, because it's frightening what's going on in here. And so you do for everybody else and you put yourself at the bottom of the pile. And so, and also we're taught when we're young about, you know, you shouldn't be selfish. That's selfish. You shouldn't be doing that. You know, everybody else is more important. But actually, what's more important is you. Because if you can't look after you, as a mum, as a dad, or a caregiver, whoever you are, if you're getting stressed out at work, how are you going to function well at home and have a good home life and a good social life as well? Because we're here for the whole package, not just at work.
Leading question, and I know what your answer is going to be,
Okay.
but just how valuable then and effective is somebody who is giving life coaching? How effective is it going to be for an individual? What kind of results have you seen?
Huge results. So my agoraphobic lady, for example, who hadn't been out the house, hardly been out the house for 7 years, I started working with her because she was frightened she wasn't going to get to her daughter's wedding. I'd got 6 weeks to get her to her daughter's wedding. She went to her daughter's wedding, she stayed overnight, and she had tools and techniques with her that she could use without anybody noticing that she was doing it. And
did you do one just then? That? Did you just Right, okay.
You know, and you know, it's a, and you know, and another lady, for example, she was having treatment, but it wasn't doing the job for her. So I was able to top that up, and you know, she was off work because of ill health, you know, and she was getting more and more down and more depressed. But then I helped her to see the other side of what was going on in her life, and then her, you know, her emotional health started to get a lot better again, and then to start to get the balance, and she was able to go back to work again. And sometimes, you know, it's other things like I accept the bereavement of my mother, but I'm still having trouble with this and I'm still having trouble with that, where it's tweaking and helping them change their habits. But I want to get fitter and I need to run because that's the best thing for me to do. Well, is running really the right thing for you? You've talked about yoga and relaxation, and it's finding the right person for the right...
It's the trick to vocalise things, to actually just say them out loud. It's interesting, just recently my father passed away last year, and I did the eulogy, and the thing that I found was the bit that I'd vocalised, I was just about able to deliver. The bit I hadn't vocalised and thought in my head and just written down on paper, when I went to say it out loud, because I'd never said it out loud previously, I found myself choking up. Is it that we don't vocalise our inner emotions enough, not only to other people, but to ourselves?
I think a lot depends on the individual personality. But if we can let it out, you know, it's like when people are very stressed or very angry, they'll scream and shout, won't they? Or they'll, you know, swear and... bang desks and slam doors, and it's about getting that energy, getting that emotion out, like you were saying, so it can go. And it's a release. And then once you've got that release, then you've got a clearer head to be able to go, okay, what am I going to do now? Instead of where some people might go, oh my God, I'm really frightened now, what's going to happen, and revert back. But it's about having things in place to go, if I let that go, what am I going to replace that with? But have a good strategy or a good habit to start replacing it with.
Do you know, it's been a wonderful programme sitting and talking to you. I feel like I've had an hour of therapy now.
Good.
But it has been really interesting, and I think a lot of people who find themselves in that position, because it affects all aspects of their life.
Yeah.
Now, I just need to say to you, in a minute, I'm going to ask you to look straight down that camera over there, number 4, say who you are, where you're from, and really the key takeaways that we need to remember from today. So no pressure then. So while you collect your thoughts, you don't get...
Can I have that piece of paper?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can have that piece of paper. Been a really interesting show today. Now, don't forget, if you want to get your hands on the book, is it available on Amazon?
It is, absolutely.
It's available on Amazon. The book is called When Dad Became Joan, Life of My Transgender Father. It is effectively a life workbook. It's really, really worth getting your hands on. And a fascinating read. As we said, a workbook that you interact with. That's what's so good about it. So if you want more details about that, you'll find that on our website as well. We'll give you links to find where the book is, so you can get your copy of the book yourself. Just go to our website at businessconnectionslive.com. If you can't find, you'll find Cath, depending on when you're watching this, of course, but if you're watching it shortly after we've broadcast it or whenever, then all you've got to do is just go down the page a bit and you'll find Cath Lloyd's programme there. If you can't find it and you've watched a bit of the programme, just type in Cath Lloyd in the search and it'll go find her for you. Was that just a bit complicated? I'm not making this too stressy for you, am I?
Take a deep breath.
And breathe.
That's one.
So, straight down camera number 4, who you are, your company name would be lovely too, and the key takeaways from today's programme for people who want to combat the stress, the anxiety in life and what they can do about it. The airwaves are all yours.
Okay. So I'm Cath Lloyd from Make the Change, anxiety and stress therapist and coach. So for me, about managing anxiety and stress is all about self-care. Okay, and learning how to look after yourself in, you know, times as they are at the moment. It's very difficult to get appointments with your GP and even with your nurse. So what can you do to help yourself to manage those thoughts and those feelings, those aches and the pains? Because, you know, the head, the heart, the whole body is all connected up together. And learning about yourself. You know, that is what I do as a life coach. I help people understand themselves, help them listen to what's going on in their head and their heart and the little niggles and aches and pains that are going on in their body. Because if you understand all of those little different issues, then you know, when you can feel yourself sliding off your balance, you can say, oh, I recognise that feeling. That's because I've been working too hard at work. I haven't been having enough rest time, or I've been, you know, doing too much fitness and I need some rest, or that is to do with communication problems with people at work. And, you know, use the tools and the techniques that are taught to you to keep yourself on that balance. Because the problem is, the further you slide off your balance, the harder it is to get back up onto that balance again. You know, and this is the change, you know, the change curve process, you know, that we have to reach. Most people will have to reach a certain level before they will start introducing any changes. You know, it's all to do with the pain-gain balance. We can go through life with a little bit of pain as long as the gain is, you know, higher than the pain. But what happens in life is you get more roles and responsibilities, you know, stuff's happening at work, a bit more pressure, perhaps a bit more pressure at home, you know, perhaps something's happened in the family that's going to add a little bit more pressure on as well. The kids changing school or leaving home, empty nesting syndrome, all of these little things build up, and gradually that pain gain threshold will change. Okay, and then the pain is greater than the gain. But the key is, once you've recognised that, is to get help, get support, because it is out there for you. And you know, it's great having friends to talk to, but some will go, there, it's okay, you know, you're doing a great job. But are they really going to help you pinpoint what the issues are and how to help you to get through it more effectively? You know, yes, there's masses of books out there, and you know, that's where I started reading books, but you've still got to put the action in, and I can help you, make you accountable for that. And that's what it is. It's about taking responsibility for your thoughts and your feelings, your behaviour, and making something different for yourself so that you can be happier. You know, we're here on this earth once, and it's about making the most of it. And, you know, people can have an influence on us about how we feel and think and feel, but it is really about how we process that information and what we want out of life at the end of the day. And it's about functioning well so that we can manage all of those roles and responsibilities at home, all of those responsibilities at work, going out and socialising with your friends, and, you know, allowing yourself so that, you know, when you do go away on holiday, you're not worrying about going back to work, but you can enjoy that holiday for what it is, so that then you can be refreshed, re-energised, and go back to work after that holiday, for example. So it's about what I do is I help people communicate with themselves better. And if we are communicating with ourselves better, we're going to communicate with everybody else a lot more effectively as well, which means you're going to perform better at work, you're going to be able to make good decisions, you're going to be able to confront that person who is, you know, putting a bit of pressure on you or perhaps bullying you about what it is, you know, that they are doing, how they are making you feel. And again, it's the same in your personal life as well. You know, we have a lot of, you know, issues that are thrown at us from our kids, for example, our parents, our partners, and it's about having the confidence. And if we are communicating with ourselves better, we're going to have more confidence in, you know, making and dealing with those challenges. And, you know, when your child's going, I want an answer now, I want to go out to this party on a Wednesday night, but you've got school tomorrow and there's a big row going on. You know, but if you are feeling comfortable about yourself, you're in a stronger position to be able to say, I need time to think about this. And that's you know, you can use the same skills at home or at work. So learning about yourself so that you can be a happier, healthier person. And, you know, like I say on my website, it's about having a brightness in every day and not just one day a year. You know, it's every day, because it's important to be happy.
Fabulous. Thank you very much indeed. Wow. You don't often get that, do you? So there's key takeaways from today's programme. Fantastic. Cath Lloyd on this week's edition of Business Connections. Thank you very much indeed.
It's been lovely.
It's been lovely. It's been great fun. Been really, really interesting. So who we got coming up in the future? Well, coming up on future programmes, Michelle McMaster. She's going to be joining us. Brian Norris, Living Memories. Azima Jiwa. Penny Haslam's going to be on the programme. Penny, of course, the award-winning inspirational speaker. Warren Knight, another professional speaker on his upcoming book. He's going to be here. Brad Burton, the UK's leading motivational speaker. Loads of speakers coming on. So they're going to be coming up on future programs. If you'd like to be on the show, get in touch with us here at Business Connections Live. But until we do it all again next week, try to be less stressful, try to get rid of the anxiety, and we'll see you next Monday when we're live at 12 noon. Till then, bye for now. Bye-bye.
Business Connections Live, the UK's leading online business channel.